Hey guys, so for my play presentation, I'm doing Trap by Stephen Gregg. This show is really interesting because it has so many complex, different individual storylines that all have key details that come together and reveal the main key component of the story. So basically, this story is a documentary mystery that is inside of the show. So there was a high school production and in California, so this takes place in Menchap, California, and there was a performance that happened at this high school and it resulted in the entire audience becoming unconscious. So this documentary is about them trying to figure out what happened that night of everything bad happening. For the criteria of the show, there is a cast of 46 characters, which is a lot, but that means that the actors can play more than one role, which is really interesting. And I'll talk about the main characters or some of the bigger speaking roles in a little bit. But yeah, this show also has no difficult tech requirements at all. It's all pretty basic. And then we have, this show is school appropriate, but it is a little bit scary and you can almost consider it like a horror show, but it is meant for high school production, so it is school appropriate. The rights are also available for this show, so we'd be able to do it. Okay, for the characters. So like I said, there's a whole bunch of characters in this show and these are only a few of them. There's also different reporters and investigators or interviewees as well, and just plain old ensemble too. So there's Hayesh, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but she is a struggling detective and I would say the main character throughout this whole thing because she is trying to figure out what happened. She's also working with all of the other characters and the investigators as well. We then have Angela, who is the lone survivor of the night of the attack, and she was there during the performance, but she was the only one that didn't fall unconscious, so she becomes the main and most important witness of them all. We have Candelaria Ortiz, who is the philosopher. We have Norma Pike, who is destroyed by loss of her husband. So her husband died, and that's another little subplot that comes into play. We have Marianne J., who is the Faranock expert, and just a little background of Faranock. So Faranocks are creatures that can mimic human emotions and even look like humans. And so basically, later on in the story, you find out that Faranocks are the reason why this is all happening, but she's the expert on that, and she comes in around the climax. We then have Rickenach, who is the researcher, and he researches fear because Faranocks they feed off of fear. We then have Ephraim, who is the fireman, and he also has his own little plot in there as well. But yeah, like I said, there's a whole bunch of other featured characters and ensemble as well, not just these ones. So for the plot line, so it all starts off, the initial situation is the detective says that this happened in the Oak Box Theater in California and they need to figure out why this happened. So the inciting incident is probably when they show Angela on the stage calling 911 during that night, and it's kind of almost like a flashback to what happened, and she reveals some major plot points during that scene. And then the rising action is them finding all these different clues and gaining this information from interviewees or different witnesses or all of these different events that happened along the way, gathering that information, trying to string it together. And then for the climax is probably when the detective calls Marianne J. and she tells her about Faranocks. And the detective realizes that this could be the reason why all of these people went unconscious. And she tells them Marion tells the detective that there's still hope for them and they won't have to die because they're just unconscious. And so yeah, that kind of unravels things even more. And then for the resolution, what's really interesting about this show is that it kind of has some audience interaction as well. So towards the end of the show, as they put everything together and they find out what happened completely, they realize that this did not only happen in the past and that it could also be happening right now. So the show that they put on in the documentary is called Trap, and the show that we're watching is, or would be performing, is called Trap. So it's saying that the audience is trapped, and we would plant different people in the audience to like fall out into the aisles, and it would scare the entire audience that they're a part of this story now too. And it's just a really interesting way to keep the audience interested, and it just makes it really fun. So yeah, that is the resolution. And then why should Hamilton do this show? It is such a unique show and such a unique concept of being like a documentary about a play, which is something you don't really see that often. And with the audience interaction, it makes it really fun and really nerve-wracking if you're sitting in the chairs of the auditorium. I also think it would just be really fun because of how many characters there are, and so many people could have a chance of playing those and playing a fun role. So yeah, I think it would be a really fun show to put on. So thank you for listening.